What would you do when you open your eyes and realize you've just been born, crawling out from between the hind legs of a sow? I had to go through that horrifying experience. In fact, my father even considered logging me out right after I was born, just because I was a black pig. Only when they discovered that I was the reincarnation of the Heavenly Marshal did they finally stop. I remember that moment clearly, and if anyone said it was destiny, I would punch them if I still had human hands. Seconds before, I was an ordinary teenager flirting with a beauty. She smiled, I smiled too. In my mind, I had already started drafting a speech for winning the Male Lead of the Year award. Then, boom, not thunder, not divine light. It felt like the whole world pressed the skip cutscene button. Before I could curse again, everything spun like a washing machine. My ears rang, vision went dark, I thought I died. Wrong, I didn't die. I got my operating system reinstalled. When I opened my eyes, I saw no hospital, no heaven, and no crying school beauty. I saw dirt, a lot. That smell was like a farm hosting a global mud festival. I tried to stand up, but my legs were no longer legs. 4 short black furry legs, and my belly unbalanced. I stayed silent for 3 seconds, then I screamed. Instead of what the hell, it came out as you, I froze, like my brain was reloading a corrupted file. Just then, I heard commotion around me. It's a black pig. No demonic energy at all, a useless waste. Truly an omen of the Bai Zhu clan. Bai, Zhu, I turned my head. A group of humanoid beings were staring at me like I was a design error. One man, the final boss, stepped forward. His gaze was cold, as if I ruined honor. I understood something horrifying. I didn't transmigrate into a prince, a genius, or a handsome lead. I became a black pig, one that its own clan wanted to delete from existence. I exhaled slowly, then muttered, "Fine, world, you just picked the wrong person to troll." But I realized something terrifying. I had just delivered that cool line in Oink language. I had barely gotten used to being a black pig. Minutes ago, I tried to convince myself this was a bad dream, something I would wake up from with a headache. But then I saw him, the man standing before the crowd. If I called him father, it would sound too gentle. To my instincts, he felt like a storm becoming human. His eyes didn't look at me like a son. They looked at me like a critical system error in the bloodline. The surrounding air grew colder as the clansmen started whispering. A black pig, no demonic power. Truly an omen of disaster. The war god will not spare it. I almost laughed. My brain was struggling to process a completely absurd truth. I had just transmigrated, and my father wanted to kill me because I wasn't meta enough. He stepped forward, slowly. Each step felt like it was crushing my throat. I tried to retreat, but my 4 short legs betrayed me in the most local build way possible. He spoke, his voice deep, cold, without a trace of any emotion. Trash. Just one word, but enough to make me feel like I had been reported 999 times in an online game. He continued, "The Bai family does not need an existence." I blinked. Wait a second, did he just call me an existence? I started to suspect I wasn't even his son anymore, but a bugged system update the developers forgot. A sigh came from behind. My mother, at least I assumed she was my mother, stepped forward to block me. Her voice trembled. "You can't, it's just a child." I froze slightly. At least in this world, there was still someone who saw me as a child, not a file to be deleted. But he didn't look at her. His gaze stayed locked on me. Then he raised his hand. The surrounding air distorted as if being squeezed. I could clearly feel it. This was the tutorial boss fight beginning. I wanted to scream, run, and quit. But there was no quit button, no respawn. Only one simple truth. I was about to be deleted. He spoke, neither loud nor soft, as if sentencing tomorrow's weather. "I will personally end." At that moment, a strange thought flashed through my mind. In my previous life, I died failing to flirt. In this life, I die because I am an unqualified, pathetic black pig. This world really has a sick sense of humor. I thought the moment I transmigrated into a black pig was the biggest shock of my life. I was wrong. I was so wrong. The biggest shock happened when my father decided to turn me into a starter tutorial demo for beginners. He stood there, not angry or shouting, but eerily calm, like deleting junk files. And then I saw it. A gray-silver energy began gathering in his palm. The surrounding air tightened like a string about to snap. I understood one thing clearly, that power was lethal. I tried to retreat. My 4 short legs reacted like they were in a meeting, and unanimously voted, non-cooperation. My mother rushed forward. "Don't." The woman's voice broke in the cold air. But he did not look at her. He did not look at anyone. His eyes were fixed only on me, as if the world existed solely to witness the moment I was reset. Trash should not exist. He said it, short, clean, emotionless, like a system command. Then he raised his hand. I could feel my heart pounding like an overloaded CPU in my chest. It's over, I thought. This run ends earlier than expected. But right at that moment, ting, a strange sound echoed in my mind. Not a human voice, but a system pop-up notification. The trash pig evolution system has been activated. I froze. Wait, what? Before I could even process it, my entire body suddenly burned hot. Not pain, but the sensation of a reinstallation. My skin turned a deeper black. Not dirty black, but a hardened black, like metal, crystallizing beneath the skin. He also froze. For the first time, a flicker of disturbance appeared there. What? I looked at my hand, or rather my hoof. It was no longer the hoof of an ordinary pig. It was more like a kind of armor. Mysterious iron skin successfully activated. The system voice echoed in my mind, calm, as if reading a microwave manual. Then his attack struck. Boom! The sound exploded like a compressed blast. The ground beneath me shook violently. But I did not fly away, did not explode, did not turn into mincemeat. I was only pushed back a few steps and stood there, intact and silent. The space paused. I blinked. Looks like I didn't die? Another line appeared in my mind. Breakthrough, third tier demon beast. I froze. What? I just got hit and leveled up. What kind of logic is this world running on? He looked at me. This time, it was no longer a delete file gaze, but the look of someone encountering a bug they cannot debug. Impossible, he muttered. Meanwhile, I was still processing everything. So in summary, I transmigrated into a pig. My father wants to kill me. I didn't die. I got stronger. And I just leveled up like an auto-farming game. I let out a long breath, then thought, alright, if this is then I just found the cheat code. And right at that moment, the system spoke one final line, soft as a finishing move, temporarily immune to death. I looked up at it, my so-called father. For the first time in my life, I felt something very clear. I wasn't afraid of him. Rather, I had just become an uncontrollable variable in his world. I still clearly remember that moment, the moment when everything in my life officially shifted from bad to it cannot possibly get worse unless the universe adds a DLC. I had just escaped death. Yes, just escaped death, but don't rush to congratulate me. In this world, escaping death doesn't mean everything is fine. It means welcome to the next punishment. My father stood there. He said nothing. He didn't blink. He only stared at me, as if weighing whether a manufacturing accident should be scrapped or returned to the factory. Around us, the air felt cold, as if someone had opened a freezer door in the middle of summer. My mother was still standing in front of me, gasping for breath, but I could feel it. She knew this was not over, and she was right. My father lowered his hand. I thought everything was fine. Wrong. That was the kind of lowering the hand that doesn't mean stopping the kill, but switching to a long-term solution. He turned away one step, just one step, but I already felt a chill run through me. Then he spoke, his voice as cold as steel dropping onto ice. No need to kill. I froze. Wait, that line was even scarier than I will kill you, because killing is quick and final. But no need to kill usually comes with very creative ideas. He continued, take it to the Back Mountain Gorge. The entire crowd went silent. My mother's face turned pale. No, that place is. But he didn't let her finish. Let it survive or perish on its own. Short, decisive, emotionless. Like placing a defective product into a return to sender, unknown address box. I stood there. My brain took about 3 seconds to translate that into human language. Not killing you immediately, but I'll drop you somewhere the universe will do it for me. I tried to smile. It didn't work. My pig mouth didn't cooperate. I tried to step back. Also impossible. Because at that moment, 2 guards grabbed me. No, grabbed was too polite. More accurately, they lifted me like an expired shipment. I started struggling. Oink, 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 oink. As far as I understand, I meant, wait, we can talk this out. But no one understood. Of course not. Who would listen to a pig trying to negotiate human rights? I looked at my mother one last time. She said nothing. She only looked at me. That gaze was not helplessness. It was the look of someone who knew the world had just issued me a long-term sentence. Then I was dragged away, out of the courtyard, out of the clan's sight, out of everything I had just begun to call my new life. And in the moment I was thrown onto the transport cart, yes, thrown, not placed, I vaguely heard the system voice in my head, survival zone activated, Back Mountain Gorge. I exhaled, very long, very deep, like someone realizing they are no longer a protected tutorial protagonist, but have been switched into hardcore survival mode, no save, no respawn, no customer support. I looked at the sky growing farther away and told myself, fine, if this is how this world plays with me, then I'll play back my own way. But there was also a small thought in my mind, very small. Hopefully, that gorge at least has Wi-Fi or basic survival skills. I once thought the bottom of my life was when I transmigrated into a pig. I was wrong again. The real bottom of life is realizing you are standing in a gorge, where nature clearly has no intention of being friendly to any creature without pro-level survival skills. I had just been dumped into the Back Mountain Gorge, not the gentle kind of drop you down to learn, but the kind of free fall and surviving as a bonus. The impact made me roll several times like a bowling ball cursed by karma. When I stopped, the first thing I noticed was silence. A suspicious kind of silence, like the entire world was holding its breath to see if I could survive more than 10 seconds. Then I heard the system. Area, Back Mountain Gorge, danger level, very high. Recommendation, run immediately if you still want to live. I froze. Thanks system, very helpful. Like being told, don't die while a monster is already staring at you. I began observing my surroundings. The trees here were not like normal trees. They looked as if they had signed a contract with darkness and were waiting for the day their souls would be liquidated. The air smelled of metal. And of old blood. Very fantasy-themed, if you like this kind of decor. I swallowed, or at least tried to swallow, with my new pig throat. Then I heard it. Craca, the sound of stone being crushed. I turned my head and saw 2 monsters. A venomous lizard, its entire body covered in blue-black scales, drooling a smoking liquid from its mouth. and a giant serpent, so large it could swallow me without chewing, coiled around a rock as if it were its personal sofa. They were fighting. Not the kind of fight for ideals, but the kind of I will kill you before you even think about existing. I stood still, very still. Instinctively, I had learned an extremely important survival skill, pretending I do not exist. But then, mission alert, low-level inner core energy detected. Recommendation, collect. I looked up at the sky. There was no sky, only rock. I looked down. No choice. Only two monsters tearing each other apart like a high-budget action movie. And I was in the middle. A black pig at just spawned level. I sighed. All right, I muttered. If this is a survival game, at least give me a tutorial. At that exact moment, the lizard was slammed by the serpent and flew straight into the cliff beside me. Boom, rocks shattered, dust flew. And in that instant, I saw something glowing inside its body. An inner core. Small, but to the system, it looked like gold in GTA. I froze for 0.5 seconds. Then my brain switched to, if I don't take it, I die. If I take it, I might also die, but at least I die with loot. I charged. Yes, me, a black pig thrown into a gorge, was sprinting into a monster battle like an influencer chasing a Black Friday deal. I dove into the lizard's corpse, bit it, not like eating, but like trying to swallow the world if possible. And the moment the inner core touched me, activation, devouring successful, breakthrough, 6th tier demon soldier. New skill, savage strength technique. I froze, not from pain, but from shock. I had just eaten something, and it made me stronger. I looked back at the monster's corpse, then at the giant serpent still fighting, then at myself. I muttered softly, huh. This world really has no food safety regulations. I had just learned an important truth about this world. If you think being transmigrated into a pig is the worst thing that can happen, congratulations, you have just unlocked another layer of hell. I am in the Back Mountain Gorge, and this place is nothing like a back mountain for scenic walks or chill travel vlogs. No, it is more like, welcome to Jurassic Park, but without safety instructions or rescue staff. The system in my head just updated a mission. Target detected. 5 elements fire lotus. I blinked. Lotus? Sounds kind of poetic. Lotus type, meditation, purity, healing the soul. But right after that, the system added another line. Warning, the area contains multiple high-level demon beasts competing for it. Ah, so it was a kind of lotus with death insurance included. I sighed, then I started moving. If someone asked how I had changed since transmigrating, the answer would be, I stopped asking why, and started asking where is least likely to kill me. I crawled over a rocky slope, then a crack, then a forest where I was 80% sure the trees here wanted to eat me if I looked at them too long. And then I saw it, an open area. In the center was a lotus flower, but not the kind of lotus in your home fish pond. It was floating, glowing, and surrounding it was fire. Not barbecue fire, but fire that felt like it was burning. Even the concept of basic physics. 5 elements, great fire, lotus. The name sounded like a main dish on a hell restaurant menu. And around it, I saw them. 3 demon beasts. A fire tiger, a giant bird whose wings were like burning flames, and a stone bull exhaling smoke. All of them were staring at the lotus. No one dared to move. The air was so tense that if a knife cut through it, it would probably vaporize. I stood behind a rock, silent, very silent. Like I do not exist, please do not add me to your database. A firebird screeched. Not a normal cry, but the scream of something that had lived too long. The other two still did not move. I immediately understood. This was a multi-faction boss fight, and I was an NPC without a script. I began to consider, stay, die, leave, also die, because the system would call me useless. Take it, die faster, but with loot. I swallowed. Then the system in my head spoke, very gently. Recommendation, act immediately. I looked up at the sky. Thanks. Very helpful. 10/10th life coach. Then I looked back at the 3 demon beasts. They were still staring at the lotus. No one noticed me. One of them was even growling lightly like this will be mine if I dare take it. I exhaled. All right, I'm not the kind of pig who likes fighting. But I really like free stuff. I began to move. Very slowly, very low. Like a bugged AI trying to avoid detection. Step by step. I circled around the rocks, avoiding gazes, avoiding even existence. Then I reached the lotus. It was hot, not comfortably warm, but the kind of heat that feels like it will rewrite your DNA if touched. The system started warning non-stop. Temperature exceeding threshold, body under high energy pressure. Recommendation, retreat immediately. I let out a dry laugh. Retreat, buddy, I've already been thrown into this gorge by my father. This is already hard mode retreat. And then I lunged in, no thinking. No strategy, no plan A, B, or C. Only one thought, take it and run. I opened my mouth, swallowed. The moment I did, boom. Heat exploded inside my body like someone had thrown a mini sun into my stomach. I heard the system screaming in my mind, warning, energy overload. I didn't care. I turned around and ran, using full survival skill level, panic pig. Behind me, the 3 demon beasts finally reacted. A roar erupted, like, who touched my stuff? But I was already gone. While running, I thought, okay, if I survive this, I officially upgrade from normal pig to cosmic thief pig. I still remember that moment vividly, like life doesn't go as planned, but this was beyond Netflix level, more like a National Geographic survival documentary edition. In front of me was a brutal natural selection battlefield. A venomous lizard as long as a minibus was wrapped around a giant serpent. They were tearing each other apart, venom splashing like failed fireworks, rocks flying everywhere. If this were on Earth, it would definitely go viral on TikTok with the caption, "When your roommates hate each other but you're just trying to survive." And me? A newly transmigrated black pig, just standing there like, bro, I just want to live peacefully. But life did not give me the option of peaceful stability. The moment the giant serpent fell, its belly split open, and a glowing inner core rolled onto the ground. I swear, in that instant my brain did not think danger or run away. It thought only one thing: can it be eaten? And the system in my head answered faster than Google. Energy accumulation detected. Devouring ability activated. I was like, wait, what? Devour? This is not a buffet, man. But my body, this traitorous pig body, didn't ask for permission. It charged forward. One bite. One swallow. And boom. It felt like I had just drunk a cup of espresso mixed with explosives. My entire body burned hot, bones cracking like popcorn in a microwave. A bright red message appeared before my eyes. Breakthrough. 6th tier demon soldier. I stood there, dumbfounded. Bro, I just got transmigrated not even a day ago and I'm already ranking up. Is this a pay-to-win game? But before I could even be happy, the system triggered a new skill. Savage strength technique. Activated physical power exceeds species limits. I tried bending my leg. My short pig leg actually cracked the ground slightly. I went silent. Not the wow, I'm strong kind, but the kind of, okay, I am officially no longer a normal pig. I am a legally problematic pig. In the distance, the remaining venomous lizard looked at me. The giant serpent also looked at me. Both monsters that had just killed each other were now staring at me like something that should not exist in nature. I just swallowed. You guys continue. I'm just a spectator. But in my mind, I had a very American thought. If life gives you monsters, maybe you are the monster now. I had just swallowed my first free inner core meal when the system began acting like an overly enthusiastic gym coach. Mission completed. Breakthrough to 6th tier demon soldier. Reward. Skill. Savage strength technique. I stood there, feeling like I had just been forced to drink a protein shake mixed with lava. My whole body burned. My pig muscles swelled rhythmically. Every breath I took made the surrounding air vibrate like a bass speaker at an EDM concert. I looked down at my 4 short legs. Okay, if this is an upgrade, then this game is seriously off meta. But the terrifying thing was, I really felt stronger. Not the fake confidence type, but the kind where you know if you headbutt a wall right now, the wall will file a resignation letter. I took one step. Boom. The ground cracked. I froze. Sorry world. At that moment, the system voice echoed again, cold like Siri but with moral issues. Confirmed. Host has met survival requirements for Back Mountain Gorge. I almost laughed. Survival? Bro, I still don't even know if I'm a pig or a mini-boss yet, but the world did not care about my feelings. A cold wind blew. In the distance, beast roars echoed like a horror movie trailer. Standing in the gorge, a newly leveled pig, the system looked at me like, congratulations, you have unlocked hard mode, no save button. I sighed. Alright, if I am a pig, then I'll be the pig that forces the whole world to update its patch notes. Not long after leaving the gorge, I already felt it. This world was the kind that never gave anyone a weekend off. From afar, I heard roars like a hellish rock festival. Smoke and dust rose into the sky, the smell of blood and burning earth mixing into a scent. Earth would label, "Please do not try this at home." And then I saw it. The Baizu clan, my family was under siege. Wolves, bears, and several demon beasts. I immediately mentally labeled uninvited guests, but extremely destructive. They stood in a circle like an auction. The only difference was the item being auctioned was the life of my entire clan. Oh great, I muttered. I transmigrate into a pig, and now it's Black Friday Family Edition. In the middle of the chaos, I saw my mother. She was forced to kneel, her body trembling but her eyes still holding onto the last shred of maternal pride. And my father, Bai Jen Tian, he lay in a corner, blood staining his once proud white fur of the war god bloodline. Now he looked like a war god who had just been uninstalled from the system update. I stood still, not because I was afraid. It was because the system in my head just emitted a very annoying ding. Warning, the clan base is under invasion. Suggestion, intervene immediately or prepare to become braised pork. I snorted. Thanks for the advice, but I don't plan on being the main dish today. A giant wolf stepped forward, a bone ring hanging around its neck, looking at me as if reading a restaurant menu. Oh, this is the useless black pig the war god mentioned? It sneered. Looks more like an appetizer than the main course. I tilted my head. You know, I said, on Earth, people say you shouldn't judge a pig by its skin. It laughed louder. Then what should we judge it by? I smiled. By your running speed when you see me get angry. The air went silent for a second. Then I heard the sound of bones breaking. Not mine. Mine was evolving. Activation, savage strength technique. Activation, blood red scorching heaven, basic mode. Heat surged through my body like a microwave left on too long. I felt every pig cell inside me, signing a new contract with fate. I looked at the invading group. Okay, I said softly. Let's redefine the term roast pork. Then I charged, not running, but like someone just kicked the laws of physics. The wolf from earlier was still laughing when I slammed it into the ground with a savage strength strike. The earth exploded like the world had just hit rage quit mode. A bear, swatted away by my pig hoof. Another wolf, burned to ash by blood-red scorching heaven before it could finish its second villain line. I heard their screams, but they were swallowed by the sound of myself, a tiny black pig, yet making the entire battlefield go silent. And then I stood among the ruins. Exhaled. So, I said, anyone else want to review my service? No one answered. Smart choice. I turned back toward the Baiju clan. Those eyes were looking at me. Fear, shock, and hope. My mother called my name, trembling. My father tried to stand, but couldn't. He looked at me as if seeing for the first time that I was no longer the shame of the clan. I walked forward, not as a son, but as something that had already surpassed the title of son. I'm back, I said. But inside, I knew something else. This was no longer a battle for recognition. It was to end everything that began with my own blood. I returned at the moment I least wanted to, but exactly when needed. There are moments in life when you wish you were anywhere else, Hawaii, or at least a bakery with free Wi-Fi. But no. I was standing on a battlefield where family reunion had been replaced with family extinction event. The wolves and bears were still there. So many it looked like an international conference, except no one brought goodwill. They turned toward me. The atmosphere shifted instantly. A wolf sneered. Ah, the black pig is back. Couldn't run last time, so now you want to be a hero? I tilted my head. Hero sounds too heavy, I replied. I prefer calling it paid customer service with violence. They paused, then laughed. First mistake of their day. I exhaled. The system in my head popped up like a freshly updated app. Elite level enemy detected. Suggestion. Switch to no longer a good pig mode. Finally doing its job, I muttered. I stepped forward. Just one step, but the ground beneath me cracked. The demon beasts immediately changed expression. Like, wait, what just happened? I didn't wait for them to think further. Savage strength technique. I charged in. Not like a stylish Hollywood fight with slow motion and epic music. No, this was a cosmic traffic accident. A bear was blasted away like a firework on National Day. Another wolf tried to counterattack and immediately realized that idea was beyond wrong. Why? It didn't even finish before collapsing. I exhaled. You know, I said, on Earth, they call this work-life balance. I call it life ends immediately. Then I raised my hoof. Flames gathered. The air heated up like the world had switched to bake mode. Blood-red scorching heaven. A sweeping flame strike. No elegance, no negotiation, only outcome. The invading beasts began dissolving like permanently deleted cloud data. One wolf still managed to scream. What? What are you? I paused for a second, looked at it, and said something I later considered quite philosophical. I am the system error you will never patch. Then it disappeared. When everything finally quieted down, I turned back toward the center of the Baizu clan. My mother was still there, and my father was still trying to stand, even though he was clearly losing even his battle against gravity itself. He looked at me, no longer anger, no longer contempt, only the kind of gaze of someone who has just realized the world they believed in all their life has been rewritten by a glitch version. I walked closer. No one spoke for a few seconds, only the wind passing through the ruined battlefield. Then I opened my mouth. Don't look at me like that. I'm not some late-blooming genius. I paused. Nor a trash tier failure with VIP mode activated. I looked straight at him. I'm just a black pig the universe forgot to label as dangerous. Silence. Then I turned around and walked away, without waiting for an answer. Because this time, I didn't come back to be acknowledged anymore, but to make sure none of them would ever have to live under someone else's shadow again. I stood in the battlefield that just minutes ago had been a luxury residential area of wolves and bears. Now it looked more like a Black Friday sale event, except instead of TVs, they were fighting over the right to breathe. I had just landed. No introduction, no greeting. In this world, the best business card is a fireball hot enough to burn away prejudice itself. Savage strength technique. I stomped. The ground cracked as if it had just read its monthly utility bill. A surge of pure physical force erupted. No elegance, no philosophy, only one message. Anyone standing too close is responsible for their own survival. The wolves roared and charged as if joining a competition for who dies the fastest. I sighed. You know, I muttered, on Earth, I thought the hardest test was college entrance exams. Wrong. This is the real final boss of life. At that moment, I activated my second skill, blood-red scorching heaven. If savage strength technique was a warhammer, this one was an explosion with a bad temper. Red flames erupted from my pig body. Sounds wrong, but trust me, it made perfect sense here. The surrounding air grew so hot, even distant bears began wondering if they should switch careers to popsicles. A wolf charged in too fast, still managing to scream. For Glow, it didn't even finish before becoming, for Ash. I don't enjoy philosophical killing, but today I was in disable all survival ads mode. The demon beasts panicked, wolves backed off, bears pretended they were just passing by for exercise. The alpha roared, "What kind of pig is this?" I tilted my head. Pig? I sneered. If I am a pig, then you must be the appetizer buffet. Then I charged. It was no longer a battle. It was a dispersal of a legally armed crowd. Every step I took heated the ground, shook the air, and deleted the invader's dignity. A bear tried to counterattack, raising its claws like signing a death contract. I simply swung lightly, scorching heaven, boom. It flew past 3 trees, 2 bad ideas, and 1 life decision. When the smoke cleared, the battlefield was silent enough that I could hear myself breathing. I stood amid the chaos, a black pig, a system glitching from too much damage, and an invading army seriously reconsidering a career switch to farming. I looked at the remaining ones. Anyone want round 2? No one answered. Very wise. I exhaled, calmer now. Good. Then get off my land. Before I remember, I haven't eaten breakfast today. And so, the invasion ended in a way no one would dare record in history books. But I knew one thing clearly. This was not victory. This was just the debut greeting of a pig who had lost his patience. I stood there, surrounded by wolf corpses, bear corpses, and those who just moments ago thought pork was today's main dish. The air was thick with smoke and the unfinished careers of the invaders. I exhaled, feeling like I had just completed an exam with the question, eliminate everything that breathes within 500 meters, and then I saw him, Bai Zhen Tian, my father, no longer the war god of legend I once heard of before I was transmigrated into a pig. Now he stood there, armor shattered, blood staining his shoulder, eyes still sharp as blades but already showing cracks. Silence, the kind of silence that could probably pay rent for an entire gorge. He looked at me, I looked back, a black useless pig from before, now standing in the battlefield like an unpatchable system error. He spoke first. You have become this strong? I smiled faintly. It's not that I became strong. I tilted my head, slightly mocking. It's just that this world finally stopped trying to kill me long enough for me to learn how not to die. The air between us felt heavy, like a 300-page PDF no one wanted to open. He clenched his fist. Why did you save the Baiju clan? I'd do it for myself. I said it plainly. Not for the clan's name, not for bloodline, and even less for your so-called war god path. I took a step closer. It's simply, I don't like seeing my people being trampled. He paused. Your people? I laughed softly. Yes. Sounds ridiculous, right? A pig saying that. I looked straight at him. But at least this pig doesn't stand still watching them die. The wind blew through. Leaves fell between us, as if the universe itself was unsure which side to take. He remained silent for long. Then his voice deepened. Do you hate me? I thought for a second, then shook my head. No. He froze slightly. I shrugged. Hatred is too energy-consuming. I need experience points. I turned slightly, looking toward the path out of the clan. What I've done is finished. I continued. I don't need to beat you. I also don't need your acknowledgement. I paused. All I need is to leave the loop you call a bloodline. He clenched his fist, then slowly released it. He realized he no longer had the right. I walked past him. The distance was only 1 step, yet it felt like crossing an entire lifetime. Before leaving, I said one last sentence. If one day you remember I ever existed, don't call me your son. I tilted my head slightly. Just call me a system bug. That would sound more reasonable. Without waiting for his reply, I left. Behind me there was no pursuit, only the wind. And an old era quietly closing itself like a door without hinges. I once thought my life was wild enough after falling from a modern student into a black pig. But clearly, the universe still had more ideas for tormenting me. After the clan-saving battle, I was no longer the disdained pig boy. My new title sounded quite impressive. Hey Xuan, the one wolves would think of and immediately consider changing careers to sheep herding. But instead of basking in protagonist glory, a system notification popped into my head. New quest unlocked. 9 Revolutions Nether Spring, a place to reconstruct demonic beast bloodlines. After reading it, I wanted to ask, hey system, do you even know the concept of vacation? No, it didn't. It was basically toxic productivity AI in a fantasy world. Journey to Yu Ming Tan. I left the Bai Zhu clan. This time it wasn't being thrown away like trash, but leaving on my own, which sounded cooler, but still felt like wandering a night market alone without a wallet. Yu Ming Tan was nothing like anywhere I had seen. The air was cold, gaslighting the region's temperature. Thick mist gave off trauma vibes. And then I saw it. The Ju Zhuan Ming Quan. A pitch-black stream, yet the light within it spiraled like a miniature cosmic rift. If Netflix made a show about it, it would be called Don't Drink This Water, Season Final Boss Edition, First Encounter with the Serpent King. The moment I got closer, the ground shook. Boom. A massive shadow emerged. A serpent, but not the kind in zoos. This one was so long I suspected it came with an infinite-length DLC subscription. Its scales shimmered silver blue, and its eyes were cold, as if it had just unfollowed all human emotions. A deep, sharp female voice echoed out, "Who are you, to dare step into my territory?" I looked at it, then looked at myself, a black pig who had gone through character development but hadn't updated his appearance patch. I answered sincerely. Well, by survival logic, I'm the one who would last longer in a horror movie. It fell silent. I also stayed silent. The atmosphere grew so tense, I thought the system would start playing ads mid-battle. Bloodline pressure. Then I felt it. Bloodline pressure. It wasn't like ordinary fear. It was more like someone opened Spotify and selected Ancient Predator Aura, Volume Max. My body was forced downward, and the ground cracked. But I smiled. Because this time, I was no longer a weak little pig. I let out a low growl. System, activate buff. Activation, man look tongue, bloodline resistance to suppression. The pressure was pushed back. The Serpent King paused. For the first time, its gaze was no longer "I will devour you," but shifted to, "Oh, this pig isn't ordinary." I looked at it, tilting my head. "Listen, I didn't come here to fight if it's unnecessary. But if it is, I didn't come here to lose either." A very cinematic line, but I was standing in a lake full of monsters. I understood. This meeting wasn't for fighting, it was for fate to choose a side. And I, a pig once considered trash, had just stepped into the territory of a Serpent King capable of swallowing an entire fortress, yet I wasn't shaking. I was pretending well. Sometimes, in this world, pretending well enough is also a kind of strength. I once thought being reborn as a pig was already the lowest point of my career downgrade. But clearly, the universe just sneered and said, "Hold my celestial beer." Bai Lian led me down to the bottom of the lake. It sounded romantic, like a couple's date. But in reality, it felt more like a scam tour. No glowing lights, no cute luminous fish, only cold water as if someone had reset the temperature to cryogenic mode. I swam while thinking, if I die here, the news will probably say, "Pig transmigrator dies from not knowing how to swim." Tragic but somehow expected. The deeper we went, the stronger the pressure became. Bai Lian led the way, its massive serpent body slicing through the water like a silver blade through darkness. I followed behind, somewhat like a dumpling, being forcefully submerged, but still trying to maintain dignity. Then I saw them, deep-sea creatures. I didn't know whether to call them sea monsters or nature's failed overnight projects. Some had too many eyes, some had no clear shape. Looking at them immediately screamed, "Don't look too long, you'll regret it." One of them charged at me. Instinctively I reacted. Man Luke Tong. One impact. The water exploded as if someone had dropped a bomb in an open-world game. The creature flew backward, slamming into the lakebed, leaving behind a very artistic mark. Bai Lian turned back to look at me. It said nothing, but I swear I saw its eyes thinking, "Oh, this pig doesn't just know how to eat." I coughed lightly. "Yeah, I'm more of a multifunctional pig." We continued downward. At the center of the lakebed, I saw a strange glow. It wasn't a hopeful light but more like a warning sign written in mythic energy. Bai Lian stopped. For the first time, its voice slowed. "Do not touch what is there, unless you are prepared to pay the price." I looked at it, then at the swirling nether spring that resembled a miniature black hole. I smiled faintly. In this life, I don't have much left to lose, except my dignity and my ability to live peacefully. Saying that made me realize it sounded a bit sad. I stepped forward. The surrounding water began to tremble as if the world was whispering, "Careful, the plot twist is coming." And just as I was about to touch the nether spring, a completely emotionless voice echoed in my mind. "Warning, energy exceeds tolerance threshold. Recommendation, evolve or evaporate." I sighed. Classic system behavior. Never an option called rest. I turned to Bai Lian. "If I turn into something weird, remember not to eat me." It was silent for a second, then replied, "I do not eat the weak." I nodded. "Cool. At least I die with moral standards." Then I stepped into the vortex of the nether spring. My body was violently pulled. My consciousness felt like it was thrown into a cosmic washing machine on spin until enlightenment mode. And I realized something. This was not a place to seize treasure. It was a place to determine whether I had the right to stop being a useless pig. I once thought the most painful thing was being reincarnated as a pig. Wrong. The most painful thing is realizing the universe can still update difficulty, like an online game, but without a logout button. After descending to the lakebed, I swallowed the 9 revolutions nether spring. The moment that energy flooded my body, it felt like I had just drunk a cocktail made of molten lava, thunder, and final exam deadlines. My body began to distort. Not the anime final form glow-up evolution kind of transformation, but more like, "Congratulations, you have activated rebuild entire biology.exe mode." My bones cracked loudly, not a light cracking sound, but more like the entire universe is bending you like snack sticks during lunch break. I roared, but the sound was swallowed by water, like a pig trying to speak English underwater. "Help, I mean. I'm fine, probably." Then I saw it. The system began forced evolution. Initiating life form reconstruction. Survival rate, 37%. Suggestion, pray or accept fate. I thought to myself, wow. Nice UI design, but the content is kinda toxic. The pain surged. I felt as if my entire body was thrown into a cosmic blender, set to pure reality mode. But strangely, I didn't die. Instead, I became stronger. Every time I thought it was game over, something inside me triggered like an auto-revive hack. And then boom! A burst of energy exploded outward. The entire lakebed trembled. Bai Lian, in the distance, froze, its gaze no longer cold for the first time. But instead, something like, "What did this pig just do to physics?" I panted heavily, but when I looked down at my body, I was no longer the disdained pig. My body had grown larger, stronger. The aura around me spiraled like a crimson vortex. And most importantly, I felt something completely new. Control. No longer the system tells me what to do, but instead, I command the system. A notification popped up, but this time it felt different, no longer cold, but as if it was afraid of me too. "Congratulations. User has evolved. Primary Demon King." I laughed. "Demon King, huh?" I looked at my pig legs. Still sounds a bit unglamorous, but at least I'm no longer a demo trash version. I raised a front hoof. Just a simple swing. Boom. The air in front of me was torn apart. A crimson flame burst out, instantly evaporating the surrounding water into steam. I stood still, then said very sincerely, "Okay, that's a bit OP." In the distance, Bai Lian emerged from the water, looking at me as if considering a very serious question. "Are you still a pig?" I thought for a second, then answered, "Biologically speaking, yes. Legally in terms of power, maybe not." I tightened my aura. Crimson flames began swirling around me. I understood one thing very clearly. From this moment on, I was no longer just a survivor. I was something the world would have to start being careful when mentioning my name. I found it, in a place where even Google Maps, if it existed here, would switch to do not want to go mode. The Moon Palace ruins lay in a wasteland as if someone had once hosted a heavenly banquet here, and then forgot to clean it up for thousands of years. The moon hung above, cold and white like fluorescent light in a midnight dental clinic. If I had to name this feeling, I would call it Welcome to Lunar Depression Zone. I stood before the shattered stone gate, engraved with ancient symbols I couldn't read. Yet strangely, I understood, not with my brain, but with something deeper, like a soul Wi-Fi connection without a password. The system in my head was unusually silent. Normally it talked like a 24/7 live stream streamer, but now it was muted at the most important moment. That only confirmed one thing. This place was not normal. Or in other words, boss fight incoming. I stepped inside. The interior of the Moon Palace was so cold I felt like I had been added to a DLC called Frozen, God Edition. Broken stone pillars leaned sideways as if trying to forget their own past. In the center of the hall, something was glowing. Not gold, not spirit stones. It was a fragment. A tooth, but not a human tooth. It was as big as my arm, curved like a sickle, covered in dark red cracks, as if hammered repeatedly by heaven and earth. 9 faint engravings covered it, giving off an unpleasant feeling, like receiving an email saying, "Your account has been locked." Claw, 9 teeth. I didn't know why that name came out of my mouth, but the moment I touched it I regretted it. Not the I shouldn't have eaten spicy food kind of regret, but the kind where your soul is dragged backward, as if someone rewound your entire life but forgot to press pause. My head hurt like a forced firmware update. Flashing images, battlefields, light, the roar of something once immense, and an unnameable sense of loss. I staggered back, gasping. "Okay, note this," I muttered. "Don't touch ancient artifacts if you don't want upgraded PTSD." At that moment, a voice rang out. It didn't come from the system. It didn't come from the surroundings either, but from inside my own head. "You finally arrived." I froze, because that voice sounded like me, but older, deeper, and slightly more arrogant, like someone who always thinks they're right even while losing a game. From the light of the 9-fang claw fragment, a faint silhouette slowly emerged. A pig. No, not a pig of now. It was me, from something far more ancient. Broken armor, yet still carrying an aura, as if it had stepped out of a final boss of heaven poster. Those eyes looked at me like I was an outdated demo version. "Who are you?" I asked, though I already had an answer I didn't want to hear. The figure smiled faintly. "An interesting question. I am you, before you became a joke of reincarnation." I swallowed, unsure whether to feel moved or report a bug to the system. But what annoyed me most was I believed him. And just as I was about to ask more, the surrounding space began to tremble, as if the Moon Palace had realized it no longer wanted to be a background and instead wanted to become the main character. And me. For the first time in my pig life, I felt like I had unlocked something that should never have been opened. The 9-fang claw fragment in my hand was getting hotter. Not fresh coffee hot, but the kind of heat that feels like heavenly Tao is knocking, and it is not being polite. I stepped into the deepest part of the Moon Palace ruins with the mindset of someone who thought, "I've seen enough weird things already," and then the universe laughed straight in my face. There were no monsters, no deadly traps, no roaring boss entrance shaking the heavens. Only silence, the kind of silence that makes you suspect you are in a test server with textures not fully loaded. Then I saw it, a figure sitting amid the ruins of the central hall, spine straight like a sword, aura so intense that even the weather felt it should adjust itself. But what chilled me wasn't the aura, it was the face. Because it was me, not similar, but a version that made me feel like I was the free trial demo, while he was the full DLC with a season pass. He looked at me calmly, so calm it was mildly insulting. "You arrived later than I expected," he said. I swallowed. Traffic." He didn't smile, but I swear he wanted to. "I am a remnant soul of the Heavenly Marshal," he said slowly. "A fragment of memory cut from the river of reincarnation. And you are what remains, surviving like a system error." I frowned. "That sounds kind of hurtful. At least call me a new update version." He didn't respond, only stood up. In that moment I finally understood why he was called a marshal. Because when he rose, even the surrounding space seemed to stand at attention. He walked toward me, each step like treading on the memories of an entire era. "You are living in a pig's body," he said. "But you have never been a pig." I shot back instinctively, "Thanks for the info, but I already noticed that every morning when I look at my hooves." He paused. For the first time he looked at me for more than a second. "You are still humorous," he said. "That means you have not been completely crushed yet." I was about to reply, "Thanks, I take that as a compliment," when the ground suddenly trembled slightly. Not an earthquake, but like memories were. Awakening. He raised his hand. The space behind him shattered like glass. A stream of images poured in, not words, but direct memories downloading into my mind like forced data. I saw the heavenly realm. I saw the throne. I saw beings in divine robes, faces cold, like system patch notes. And then I saw myself, not the current pig form, but a war general standing amidst a million troops, aura so strong even the sun dimmed itself to save energy. But in that moment, I was betrayed. An arrow pierced through memory. A name echoed in my mind, sharp like spam notifications, Xiao Yi, and behind him, the sovereign emperor. I stepped back, breathing heavier. Okay, I muttered. So this isn't a cultural tour. This is the Trauma Expansion Pack DLC. The remnant soul looked at me. You have seen it. I nodded, though my mind was slightly lagging. I saw it, but I still don't understand why I had to become a pig. He smiled faintly for the first time. Because they could not kill you directly. Silence filled the space. So they threw me into another world? I asked. Not only that, he replied. They erased you from existence, so you would live as a meaningless error within reincarnation. I stood still. Then I exhaled deeply. Wow, I said. That's the most toxic way to unfriend someone I've ever heard. The remnant soul stepped closer. But system errors can also become the world's own patch. He placed his hand on my forehead. And at that moment, something inside my body awakened. Not power, but truth. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Very deep, and far from gentle. The nine-fang claw in my hand began to tremble, as if hearing a call from a battlefield it had never forgotten. The remnant soul looked at me one last time. Remember, he said, you were not born to live peacefully. You were born to end a game that others cheated from the start. And then he vanished. I stood there alone in the Moon Palace, cold like an abandoned server. I looked down at my pig hooves. I sighed. All right, I said quietly. If this is a game, then I've just unlocked the main quest. What was the quest name again? I looked up at the shattered sky above the ruins, and answered myself, revenge mode, activated. I used to think the most painful thing in life was being dumped during a confession, until I remembered that moment when a tsunami of 10,000-year-old memories crashed into the mind of a thinking black pig. I stood there in the Moon Palace ruins, cold like a five-star restaurant freezer, where even silence felt like it was looking at me with contempt. The remnant soul of me, my version from 10,000 years ago, hovered in front of me. He had no body, but his presence felt like the CEO of the entire heavenly realm. And me? A black pig who had just leveled up to Demon Lord rank, looking like a part-time employee meeting his cosmic CEO. You finally arrived, the remnant soul said, his voice deep like a Hollywood blockbuster trailer. I immediately replied, you say that so seriously, but I was just looking for cosmic Wi-Fi. Silence fell for a second. Then he didn't laugh. This remnant soul clearly had no sense of humor. Immediately after, memories flooded into my mind like Netflix autoplaying an entire season in one unauthorized binge. I saw myself him standing in the Milky Way, wearing golden armor, riding clouds like he was using premium heavenly Uber. People called him the Heavenly Marshal, Zhu Tianpeng. Just hearing the name screamed main character energy stronger than espresso. Then the next scene, the Sovereign Emperor, Xiao Yi. They stood there, smiling like two people who had just discovered how to unsubscribe me from existence. Tianpeng, the Sovereign Emperor said, you are too noisy. Noisy? Me? I hadn't even spoken yet, and I was already labeled noisy, typical boss who hates an employee just for existing. Xiao Yi raised his bow, eyes cold like winter sunscreen ads. You will be reincarnated, he said, in a place without spiritual energy, no gods, no memories, no chance to return. At that moment, I just wanted to ask one very normal question. Excuse me, is this a punishment program or an all-inclusive trip to hell? But the memory didn't let me speak. I saw myself being torn away from the heavenly realm, not a gentle goodbye, but like being kicked from a ranked server mid-game. Then modern world. Cars, phones, and me, a teenage boy flirting with a girl. A full human life reset, like a factory reset done without user permission. I stepped back inside the ruins. Wait, I muttered. You mean I got ganked back when I was still a god? The remnant soul nodded. You were not reincarnated, you were deleted. I froze. If life were a game, I hadn't just been banned. I had my entire registration email erased. At that moment, the nine-fang claw in my hand began to tremble. Not like a cold shiver, but like I miss home and I want to burn the universe down. I looked down at it, and for the first time, I no longer saw it as a strange farming tool, but as a vow buried alive for 10,000 years. I raised my head. My voice was no longer that of a humorous black pig. It was the voice of someone who had been cheated by the entire universe. So, I said slowly, I am not a side character. The remnant soul looked at me. I smiled. Sorry, but if this is my story, then I'm changing the rules from now on. The space cracked. Not because I was strong, but because I had remembered how strong I once was. And for the first time in a long while, the system in my head did not say level up. It only said one cold line, warning, Martial God Realm Awakening is initiating. I stood there in the ruined Moon Palace, where the moonlight was no longer romantic but flickering like a dying fluorescent lamp, as if the universe was trying to save electricity. In my hand, the fragment of the nine-fang claw vibrated violently, not the kind that says something is about to happen, but the kind that says I have slept too long, and now I want to rewrite history. You've seen it, haven't you? The voice of my remnant soul echoed behind me, cold like a midnight termination email. I didn't answer immediately, because my mind was overloaded. If the previous memories were a movie, this was being forced to watch the trailer, full season, spin-offs, director's cut, and behind the scenes all at once. The Sovereign Emperor, Xiao Yi. Those two names were no longer just villains in my mind. They were malware applications running in the background, quietly corrupting the system for 10,000 years. I laughed. A laugh without joy. Wow, I said. I used to think getting unfollowed was the most painful thing in life. I looked up at the sky of the Moon Palace. Turns out I was unfollowed from the entire universe. At that moment, the nine-fang claw in my hand grew hot, not metal heat, but the heat of a beast that had been caged too long and finally remembered it was not a pet. Reality around me began to distort, as if the world was reloading, but the server was lagging. The remnant soul stepped forward. Still hesitating, Tianpeng? I turned to look at him. Hesitating? I smirked. No, I'm just checking if this universe has an undo button. He didn't understand. Good. Because if he understood, he would probably find it a little terrifying. Then I heard it. Not with my ears, but with something deeper, like my soul had just switched on full HD awakening mode. The system's voice. No longer as cold as before, but like, it was afraid of me too. Warning. Martial God bloodline is exceeding safety threshold. Warning. Sealed memories are breaking apart. Warning. Heavenly martial entity is returning to complete state. I tightened my grip on the nine-fang claw fragment, and then, it reassembled itself. No reason. No logic. Like the universe just said, fine, he's back, no need to pretend anymore. Light exploded, not the beautiful angel descending kind of light, but the kind that feels like a red emergency alert from a system that just got successfully hacked. I felt my body changing, not getting stronger, but remembering that I had always been this strong, my arm felt heavier, not because of pressure, but because of authority. The space around me began to crack, as if one more strong breath from me would make the Moon Palace immediately resign from existence. The remnant soul took a step back. For the first time, he was no longer calm. You! I cut him off. Sorry, I said softly, in a tone that felt terrifyingly gentle, but I remember now. I stepped forward. Each step made the ground seem to reconsider its own existence. I wasn't betrayed. I raised my head. I was erased. The nine-fang claw let out a long resonant hum, as if it had been waiting 10,000 years for this sentence. The space behind me began to shatter in layers, not like glass breaking, but like a heavenly law book being torn page by page. I tightened my grip and smiled. Sovereign Emperor, Xiao Yi. I tilted my head, like reading a guest list for a party where I just remembered I was the host. You once deleted my account. I paused for a beat. Then now, I will delete the entire server. Light exploded. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the martial god realm was no longer a legend. It began, returning to reality. I was still standing there, in that feeling of, now that martial god bloodline has activated, what should I do next, eat breakfast or destroy the world? When the space in front of me suddenly heated up like a microwave. A crimson aura tore through the sky, a kind of red that, if compared to a California sunset, felt like someone had dropped an alchemy furnace into Photoshop and turned on apocalypse mode. Emberflame Valley has come to claim your life. I heard that voice, deep and sharp, carrying a very classic confidence. The kind villains always use right before realizing they picked the wrong protagonist. And indeed, from within the flames, a group appeared. Leading them was the Valley Master of Emberflame Valley robes, deep red, eyes glowing like two coal embers with maximum oxygen supply. Behind him stood an entire force of fire cultivators, their aura blazing like a national BBQ festival. Except I was the main ingredient. He looked at me. I looked back. It was a bit strange. Technically, I was a black pig. But spiritually, I felt like a black pig who had signed an exclusive contract with death itself. You are Black Huan, he asked. I exhaled. It was pig breath, but mixed with martial god flavor, so it sounded dangerous. Yeah, I replied. Are you a mini-boss, or a paid DLC? He frowned, clearly not understanding the joke. They probably haven't updated Netflix in this world. You killed my son, he growled. Today, I will show you Ember Flame Soul Incineration. Ah, classic revenge dad archetype. If this world had a story ranking list, he'd be top 10 inches. Parents who seek revenge without reading the quest description. I tilted my head. A soft ding echoed in my system like a phone notification. Skill unlocked. Crimson heaven burning sky. Before I could speak, he struck. A massive sea of fire surged forward. Not campfire fire. This was the kind of fire that could make an entire nation file for high-level fire insurance. But I didn't retreat. Honestly, I wanted to retreat, but my pig legs were too short. So I chose option B, standing still. System, I muttered, if you don't save me this time, I'm leaving a 1-star review. In that instant, boom. The martial god bloodline erupted. Reality around me twisted like someone had bent existence itself. The ember flame stopped mid-air, not extinguished, but vetoed. Like the universe had replied to an email, request to burn protagonist, denied. I stepped forward. Just one step, but the ground beneath the Valley Master immediately cracked like it had just heard. I wasn't planning to play fair. You said, incinerate souls? I asked. My voice no longer sounded like a pig. It sounded like a Hollywood voice actor playing a morally ambiguous final boss. I raised my hoof. No, not the cute kind of leg lift. It was the kind of flying pig kick that, if named in English, would probably be called the flying pork judgment kick. One kick. Just one. The entire fire cultivator squad behind him was sent flying as if they had just been uninvited from the main event. The Fire Cinder Valley chief stood frozen. The flames around him were still burning, but his eyes had gone out. Impossible. He stepped back. You are just a pig. I cut in. Yeah, I know. But you know what? In this world, pigs can have premium subscriptions. I smirked. The system chimed again. Kang, low-level obstructing enemy identified. Low level? I looked at him, then back at the notification. Huh, I muttered. Looks like I just upgraded to the War God without tutorial version today. And then I took one more step. Just one step, but enough to end an uninvited visit. I had just finished crushing an obstacle, like squeezing an empty soda can, my hands still warm with lingering power. The air around me was so silent I could clearly hear the system. Loading emotions. I turned back. The White Boar clan was quiet, a chaotic market version no longer. My first sight was my mother at the camp entrance. Her gaze trembled, not with fear, but the tremor of someone who had seen too much war. I wanted to run, but my feet stopped. I was still the black pig who ate inner cores, yet the title War God hung on me like a neon sign. No longer belongs here. You, my mother spoke. Just one word, heavier than all my battles. I exhaled. I'm fine, I said, feeling stupid. Fine. When I could wipe out armies with a single thought? I stepped closer. No one stopped me. My mother looked me up and down. You've changed. I smiled faintly. Yeah, I upgraded. Like a phone except no fast charging, only destruction. She didn't smile. This was a goodbye. Behind her stood Bai Jantian. His armor was cracked, his gaze no longer sharp. He looked like a war god needing a system backup. He looked at me. I looked back. No killing intent. Only a nameable silence. I remembered being trash, thrown into a ravine, labeled a system error. Strangely, I wanted no revenge. I turned to my mother. I'm leaving, I said. She startled. Where to? I looked at the sky, feeling another layer of heaven, a place where war gods were just tutorial content. The divine realm, I said. The air grew colder. Bai Lian stood beside me. Are you sure? She asked. I shrugged. Never. But the system keeps spamming notifications wanting me go. I looked at the White Boar clan one last time. Some feared, some respected, some pretended I never existed. I took a breath. I'm no longer the useless black pig. A few laughs echoed uncertain. And I'm not anyone's war god anymore. I paused. But if anyone still bullies this clan, I lifted a pig leg. The distant air cracked. My mother closed her eyes, memorizing the moment. I turned away. I didn't look back. If I did, I might stay. The system chimed. Notice. Side quest. Family. Completed. Then another line appeared. Suggestion. You still have not destroyed the Heavenly Court. I chuckled. Yeah, I muttered. I'm on my way. This time, I walked like a world-defining entity. I once thought there would be a day I stood on Olympus, delivering deep lines like a protagonist. Instead, I stood between worlds, a weak signal catching neither stable side. Bai Lian stood beside me, serpent body coiling, eyes like a deep lake. She looked toward the spatial gate cracking open. Are you sure? She asked, meaning no turning back. I looked back. The clan, the hill, my past all felt like an outdated demo. I exhaled. What's there to be sure about? If the universe wanted me peaceful, it wouldn't have designed me as this hardcore black pig. The system dinged. Player is entering no return path. By extra luck? I smirked. No. I have something better. System. What is it? I have unpaid debts. At that moment, the space ahead tore open. The Heavenly Court appeared not light, but a high-end corporate city built by Google and an ancient cult. A voice descended, uniform like an AI operator. Demonic beast. Halt your steps. I tilted my head. Demonic beast? Sounds like a nickname someone gives when they don't know their character. Bai Lian laughed softly but became serious as hundreds of heavenly soldiers appeared, neat like an army commercial. I felt the war god energy heating my heart like a stove. I stepped forward. The space trembled. I looked at the heavenly gate. Listen, I said, echoing through the clouds. I didn't come to ask permission. I came to settle accounts. A heavenly general laughed coldly. Just a pig. He didn't finish. I raised my hand. A dark force erupted. Netherwater gravity pulled the sky down. Soldiers fell like disconnected internet users. Bai Lian looked at me. You really plan to fight your way up to the Heavenly Court? I smirked. I clenched my fist, 9-rate caw vibrating in my soul space. I don't just plan to fight. I looked up at the Heavenly Gate. I plan to knock on the door with my fist. I charged, no longer a discarded black pig. If building an army was cool, doing it while being a once trash black pig was better. Now I was standing at 10,000 Beast Mountain, ready to define my own name. The name sounded grand, like Avengers Tower, Beast Edition. But in reality, it was more like a chaotic fair of various mythical races, where the strong spoke loudly and the weak usually said nothing at all. Bai Lian stood beside me, her eyes scanning the gathered beasts. You really intend to gather all of them? She asked, asking if I plan to run an illegal zoo. I nodded. If I don't gather them, how long would it take to fight them one by one? I'm not some solo-run gamer. She fell silent. You are becoming increasingly strange in speech. I once lived in a world with Netflix and memes. I replied. Weird is my baseline now. Ahead, hundreds of beast tribes gathered. Wolves, bears, tigers, serpents, and creatures I wasn't sure biology had officially signed off on. A black wolf roared. The demon realm does not need a ruler. We only need strength. I tilted my head. That sounds familiar, like people who say, I don't need management, I'm free but still ask for the Wi-Fi password every day. Some beasts hesitated, unsure if I was right or if they simply didn't understand what Wi-Fi was. A giant bear stepped forward. What are you to dare speak here? I looked down at my body. A black pig. Yeah, if judged by first impression, my resume had zero chance in any job market, but they were evaluating the wrong CV. I stepped forward. The air grew heavier, not tense, but like gravity suddenly remembered it had a job to do. I smiled. I am Hei Xuan. I paused. The one who will turn this place into an organized institution. The crowd burst into laughter. A wolf sneered. Order? You think we are humans? I shrugged. No, I think you're harder to manage than humans. And then I raised my hand. No long incantations needed. No anime-style explosion of friendship power light. Just a snap of the fingers. Netherwater gravity expanded. The space trembled. The ground felt as if someone had dragged it downward with a misused drag and drop. The entire group of powerful demon beasts, roaring and flexing moments ago, suddenly fell silent. Then they dropped. Not a gentle fall, but like a server-wide lag across the entire map. Thud. In a single second, the entire 10,000 Beast Mountain turned into a classroom scolded into order by a teacher. I brushed imaginary dust off my shoulder. Okay, I said. Anyone still want to talk about absolute freedom? No one answered. Only the cold wind passed through. Bitch Lian looked at me, her gaze no longer cold. It felt like she was weighing whether I was a mistake of nature or a plan of the universe. You don't just want to gather them, she said softly. I nodded. Correct. I looked down at the demon beasts, struggling to get up. I want to teach them how, not to be trampled by the world. I paused, adding, and if needed, how to trample back. In the distance, an old banner of 10,000 Beast Mountain flapped loudly. But I knew, from this moment on, it was no longer a chaotic mess. It was an army learning how to stand upright. I stood at 10,000 Beast Mountain, the wind blowing past my ears, making a whoosh sound like nature was launching a low-budget blockbuster trailer with me as the main character. After weeks of gathering forces negotiating cheer and thun style, I finally had what could be called an organized army. Dragons still liked sleeping in. Tigers roared during meetings, and the bird demons thought every time I said discipline, it was a new spiritual herb. If this was an army, it looked more like an armed kindergarten class. But then I remembered my past life on Earth. There, I once saw bosses control entire lives with just an Excel sheet. So I told myself, if Excel can do it, then a Chimthun like me can too. I stood on the peak rock of 10,000 Beast Mountain and coughed lightly, the kind of cough that would get a Hollywood slow-motion scene, but here only startled an owl into falling off a branch. Listen, I said, trying to keep the cold aura of a final boss. From today on, you are no longer a disorganized bunch of demon beasts. A bear as big as a small building raised its hand. So, what are we? I thought for exactly 1 second, then replied very seriously, a workforce, but one with universe-level destructive power. Silence fell for a moment, then a wolf quietly asked, can we eat humans? I nearly choked. No, I said, we follow a high-discipline, low-cannibalism model. Understand? No one understood. But they nodded anyway. I began implementing my modern force-building plan, grouping, assigning roles. It sounded cool, but I was just trying to stop monsters from eating each other during meetings. Some wanted to be vanguard generals but could not walk straight, while others ate logistics before transport. I finally understood why the heavenly realm labeled demon races as problematic assets. But then a small bird demon, fresh from basic lost flight school, flew in and asked, my lord, do you really want to turn us into an army? I smiled with deadpan confidence. No, I want to turn you into a well-organized family. The 10,000 Beast Mountain went silent. They were trying to figure out if that was an insult. The system rang. Notification. Initial force has reached temporarily acceptable state. I sighed. Temporarily acceptable? I just built a civilization. The wind blew. I knew the real game had only just begun. Southern Heavenly Gate looked like a cosmic-level airport under security audit. Tens of thousands of soldiers shone like smartphone ads, formations strict as Hollywood scenes. There was one small problem. They were flying, and I was about to make them stop. Netherwater gravity. I felt like I rewrote the laws of physics. Gravity had always been loyal, pulling things down. Today, I upgraded it to a premium subscription. Everything went silent. Then the sky began to fall, not like autumn leaves but a massive group unsubscribed from flight mode. Soldiers lost signal midair, wings shut off like Wi-Fi dropping during games. Boom! The Southern Heavenly Gate turned into a rain of people. It looked like the sky was dropping NPCs. A heavenly general flew up, shouting, I cannot be defeated. I tilted my head. Bro, if you're still being racist, you picked the wrong battle. I raised my hoof, and gravity increased, making him fall faster than an influencer's career. Bitch Lian whispered, do you think this is a bit excessive? I shrugged. No, this is called efficiency. If we're clearing a gate, we might as well clean the lobby. The Southern Heavenly Gate began to tremble, embarrassed. I looked at the battlefield. Listen, I said, loud enough for heaven to hear, Anyone saying invincible heavenly soldiers must add before they met me. A divine bird fell, muttering, "This is not in the job description." I smiled. Welcome to overtime, buddy. I once thought waking up as a pig was the worst, but I underestimated this universe. After becoming a Cheern Thun, the only thing missing was a Hollywood-style infiltration into a place even Google Maps would quit, the Moon Palace. It sounded poetic but had zero honeymoon tour vibes. It was welcome to lunar maximum security prison where emotions are censored and love is billed hourly. I split from the army. Bringing a tank to knock on a door was bad manners. Bitch Lian looked at me. I replied, "Don't worry, I'm not starting a war. I'm ending one." Honestly, I thought, either I end it, or it ends me a minor detail. The Moon Palace appeared, white and cold, so still I could hear loneliness falling. No guards, only a barrier that meant permanent logout. I took a breath. Okay, Hak Huyen. Remember when you flirted with that campus goddess and survived? This is your current level of embarrassment. Yeah, and now I'm a pig rescuing the moon goddess. Life said, hold my karma. I stepped through the barrier. No explosion, only a chill as if the moon whispered, "Oh, another one who thinks he's special." I smirked. Sorry, this time I actually am. I charged into the Moon Palace alone. No backup, no plan B. A former trash pig was knocking on heaven's door to ruin their divine system. I used to think becoming a pig was the worst. Wrong. The worst was standing before a sun-shooting god while wanting peace. But nobody talks it out here. They shoot. Teo Jich appeared on a jade ice platform, light behind him, looking like a Hollywood poster. But that beauty came with ugly arrows. He raised his bow, a solar CEO who decided to fire all life. The heavenly way does not need rebels, he said. I sighed. Bro, I just entered the room. And then whoosh, the first arrow shot forward. It governed airspace. The air ignited like a cosmic microwave. I dodged, like a pig remembering human reflexes. Boom. It pierced behind me. Okay, now I'm hunted by a divine American eagle. Tujich drew 3 more arrows. This was a policy statement, locking down all space. It felt like a premium death plan. I activated the system. Seek Tu golden cloud burst. Red gold energy exploded. But the golden crow arrows pierced my defense like aluminum foil. I gritted my teeth. Defense won't work. I switched to nether water. Gravity increased, like the universe realized I hadn't paid my debt. The arrows paused, debating whether to kill me. Tujik frowned. Good, I did something meaningful. I smirked. You shoot suns? I make them slow down. And I charged. Not flying, but like a pig, tired of living, running straight into fate. If he was sunlight, I would be the shadow, stubborn enough not to disappear. The battle starts here. I step through the mist, like entering a cosmic freezer. A tour would advertise, come for the moonlight, stay because you literally can't leave. The sound of Hang Nia's sealing chains still echoed faintly behind me, as if the palace was trying to breathe quietly so it wouldn't disturb something worse. But I am that. And then he appeared. Teu Jich. Ho Yi, the sun shooter. He looked like someone who permanently lost Wi-Fi. Irritated, cold, and ready to fight anyone passing by. He drew his bow. You shouldn't be here. I tilted my head. You say that like, I joined the wrong Zoom meeting. Sorry, nobody sent me a link. He didn't laugh. Villains without humor are annoying. The first arrow ignited the air like gasoline over a sunset. Golden crow power. It felt like a 10,000-watt hairdryer trying to style me into ashes. I activated Siktio golden cloud burst. When forces collided, space looked like someone opened 2 browser tabs and the system froze. Then I added netherwater. His fire started cooling down, like a loud guy losing signal. Teojik frowned. You're using water to counter the golden crow's fire? I shrugged. Simple logic. Fire meets water. It's not exactly a love story. The 10th arrow shot out, but I didn't dodge. Dodging just delays the drama. I walked forward, netherwater swirling like an ocean beneath my hooves. Every arrow went out instantly, like bad ideas being cancelled immediately. Teojich began to retreat. I realized, the man who once shot the suns would be forced by a black pig to reconsider his entire career choice. He roared and drew his bow to the limit, summoning a simulated golden crow, trying to update solar firmware on the spot. I exhaled. Okay, now it's my turn. I swung the divine war trident. Space tore like paper. Not elegant, the universe just got abruptly fired. I charged. 1 strike. Teojich's bow shattered like a guitar thrown into the wrong rock concert. He stood frozen. I stood before him, close enough to see his eyes were no longer divine, but those of a guy realizing his resume has problems. You, he rasped. I cut him off. I know. I'm a pig. And yes, this is the moment your career gets ended by one. I lowered the divine war trident. Just a clean ending, no refund. Teojich dissolved. More like a bad memory being permanently cashed out. Before disappearing, he managed one last line. I once shot down the suns. I nodded. Cool story, but today you just got pigged out. He vanished. The Moon Palace returned to silence. Behind me, Hanga's seal trembled. The universe sighed as if saying finally, that guy is gone. I stood there holding the divine war trident, breathing steady. This didn't feel like victory. It felt like I had erased a name from the list of things I still needed to answer in life. I walked through the broken gate of the Moon Palace, once a symbol of purity, now looking like a cosmic trauma therapy spa. Everything was silent. I saw her, Hang Nga. Suspended by sealing chains of cursed fire, like a structure built from nightmares. Her eyes were dim, but still stubborn, refusing to lie down. I stopped for a second, not because I was afraid, but because I realized the hardest thing to break isn't a seal, but old memories hanging in someone's eyes. Long time no see, I said softly. It sounded stupid, because long time meant 10,000 years, but she heard it. She raised her head. The seal trembled, feeling quite offended. I stepped forward. With every step, the cursed chains began burning in reverse. Like the palace's security system, just detected invalid user, blackpig.exe. I placed my hand on the seal. All right, I muttered. Who designed this? They really should be fired from cosmic architecture. I channeled nether water, not for battle, but to soothe. Water spread like a cold memory, touching every layer of the seal. The cursed fire resisted, screaming like an error system refusing shutdown. But I didn't rush. I used to be a pig. I used to be trash. I used to be thrown into ravines like conscious garbage. So I understood one thing. Whatever burns the hardest is usually what's about to go out. Sleep, I said, not flying, not gliding, but like a pig so tired of living that it decides to run straight into fate. At that moment, I understood one thing. If he is sunlight, then I will be the shadow stubborn enough not to disappear. The real battle starts here. I walked through the cold mist of the Moon Palace like stepping into a gigantic cosmic freezer. If someone ever made a tourist tour here, they'd probably advertise, come for the moonlight, stay because you literally can't leave. The ceiling chains of Chang were still faintly echoing behind me, as if the entire palace was trying to breathe quietly, so it wouldn't disturb something worse. But sorry, I am that something worse today. And then he appeared. Shi Yidi. Ho Yi. The man who shot the sun. He looked like someone who just permanently lost Wi-Fi, irritated, cold, and ready to pick a fight. He drew his bow. You shouldn't be here. I tilted my head. You say that like I just walked into the wrong Zoom meeting. Sorry, nobody sent me the link. He didn't laugh. Bad news. A villain without a sense of humor is usually very persistent and very annoying. The first arrow shot forward. The air immediately ignited as if someone had poured gasoline over the sunset. Golden Crow power. Sounds fancy, but it feels like a 10,000-watt hairdryer trying to style me into ashes. I activated Exichao Golden Cloud Burst. When the two forces collided, I swear space looked like someone opened two browser tabs at once and crashed the system. Then I added nether water, and something funny happened. His flames cooled down. Not a dramatic extinguish, more like a guy shouting on social media suddenly losing signal. Shi Yidi frowned. You're using water to counter the Golden Crow's fire. I shrugged. Yeah, simple logic. Fire meets water, well, it's not exactly a love story. The second arrow, the third, the 10th shot forward. I didn't dodge. I stood there like a pig who has read enough philosophy to know avoidance is just delayed drama. I stepped forward. Each step, nether water swirled like a mini ocean under my hooves. Every arrow hitting me went out instantly, like bad ideas getting cancelled the moment they appear. Shi Yidi started stepping back. At that moment I realized, the one who once shot the sun might one day be forced by a black pig to rethink his career. He roared and drew his divine bow to the limit. It wasn't arrows anymore, it was a simulated Golden Crow, updating solar firmware. I exhaled. Okay, my turn. I swung the divine war staff. Space tore open like paper in a child's angry hands. One strike. Just one. Shi Yidi's bow shattered like a guitar smashed in the wrong rock concert. He froze. I stood before him, close enough to see that his eyes were no longer divine archer, but someone who just realized his CV has issues. You, he rasped. I interrupted. I know. I'm a pig. And yes, this is your career-ending moment, brought to you by a pig. I lowered the divine war staff. No fireworks. No salvation light, just a clean finish, like what Americans call clean cut, no refund. Shi Yidi dissolved. Not allowed death. More like a bad memory permanently deleted from cache. Before disappearing, he only managed one sentence. I once shot the sun. I nodded. Cool story. But today you just got pigged out. He vanished. The Moon Palace returned to silence. Behind me, Chang'e's seal faintly trembled as if the entire universe exhaled. Like finally, that guy is gone. I stood there holding the divine war staff, breathing steady. Somehow, this victory didn't feel like victory. More like I just erased a name from the list of things I still had to deal with in life. I walked through shattered gates, once a symbol of purity, now looking like a universal trauma therapy spa. Everything was so quiet I could hear my own thoughts breathing. And then I saw her, Chang'e, suspended in the main hall, sealed by burning chains like someone used nightmare as building material. Her eyes were dim, but still held something stubborn like someone repeatedly punched by fate but refusing to lie down. I paused for a second, not because I was afraid, but because I realized, sometimes the hardest thing to break isn't a seal, but old memories still hanging in someone's eyes. Long time no see, I said softly. It felt absurd because long time here meant 10,000 years. But she heard it. She raised her head, and the seal trembled, not from attack, but as if offended. I stepped forward. With each step, the burning chains began to reverse burn, like the palace's security system detected unauthorized user, Black Pig. XC. I placed my hand on the seal. All right, I muttered. Who designed this? They should really be fired from cosmic architecture. I activated nether water. This time, not for battle, but to soothe. Water spread like a cold memory, touching each layer of the seal. The fire poison resisted, screaming like a system refusing shutdown. But I didn't rush. I was once a pig, once trash, once thrown into a ravine like sentient garbage. I understood one thing. Whatever burns the brightest is usually going out. Sleep, I said. The seal paused, then cracked. Not an explosive Hollywood break, but like the final drop that breaks a coffee cup. Crack. All burning chains fell like erased ash. Chang'e fell. I caught her. The moment was awkward because I'm still a black pig holding the moon goddess, like a rejected movie pitch. She looked at me. I looked back. Then she smiled softly, enough to light up the palace again. You are still the same, she said. I smirked. I hope that's a compliment, not a Yelp review. She touched my forehead. 10,000 years of memory surged back like a tide. I remembered everything. Not just battles or betrayal, but a promise that never disappeared. In the distance, the heavens trembled like an old hacked system. But here, I heard only breathing. Two beings erased from history, now finding each other again in a place never meant to exist. I looked toward the gate. Hardest part is done, I said. Now it's just overthrowing a heavenly emperor and rewriting the universe. I paused. Actually, that still sounds like a lot. I stood before the Lingxiao Hall, where every breath felt like inhaling authority. Honestly, it felt like a galactic government building, except the air conditioning is fate and security is destiny. The heavenly emperor was there, sitting on the throne like the universe was his personal sofa. The light around him was like a premium LED system with an eternal warranty. I walked in. No red carpet, no fanfare. Only silence so heavy it could crush needles. You finally arrived, the emperor said, as if asking what I had for lunch. I smirked. Yeah, traffic. Your heavenly troops fly so chaotically they blocked my Google Maps. He didn't laugh. Throne occupants don't need humor, they have reality editing privileges. The emperor stood, space compressed. Do you think you've won? He asked. I looked around Lingxiao Hall, pillars carved with heavenly law, destiny symbols spinning like casino wheels. I don't think, I replied. I know. A simple sentence, but the world seemed to pause. The heavenly emperor smiled, the smile of someone playing chess since before the board existed. You are just a pawn, he said slowly. No matter how you move, the board is mine. I exhaled. Classic final boss speech. I stepped forward. Your problem is this, I said. You think this is chess, but I am a system error. Silence. Then I continued. You set rules. I learn rules. You change rules. I break rules. You think you are heaven's law, but you're just an admin who likes power. A subtle flicker passed through his eyes. I hit the mark. He raised his hand. Lingxiao Hall trembled. Scripts rotated like an unexpected patch. Pressure descended as the universe tried to reset me to non-existent. Pawns should stay still. His voice turned cold. I smiled lightly. Sorry, I said. I'm the type of chess piece that flips the board. At that moment, something inside me awakened, not power, but synchronization between I am demon and I am God. Divine-demon coexistence. I clenched my fist. Space warped, not broken, but refusing to obey rules. I looked at the emperor one last time. You like rules, right? I said. Then listen to mine. I stepped deeper. Heaven has no Tao. My voice wasn't loud, but the entire space heard it. I will create my own Tao. I stood in Lingxiao Hall, right after dropping a life philosophy that would get flagged for overconfidence. Heaven has no Tao. I will create my own Tao. Everything changed. Silence deepened. The heavenly emperor no longer smiled. He raised his hand, and heavenly scripts began rebooting. Reality updated. 9.9.9 patch fate balancing. Main character adjustment. Divine demon coexistence, he murmured. Interesting. That's right, I said. An upgraded version. No ads, no subscription fee, and especially no uninstall button. At that moment, he made his move. Just a single thought. Lingxiao Hall pressed down. Not ordinary physical pressure. This felt like the entire universe was staring and saying, you should probably disappear. I was forced back half a step, but enough to understand. This was admin directly intervening. The emperor spoke slowly. You have power, but you are still standing within my laws. I laughed. Real laughter. That's your problem, I replied. I raised my hand, feeling demonic energy, divine energy, and memories of Tianpeng twisting together like a bomb without a safety pin. You think laws are unchangeable? I stepped forward again. Space trembled. But to me, I continued, laws are just things I haven't rewritten yet. The emperor narrowed his eyes slightly. He got serious. A black gold surge of power erupted from the throne, the absolute weight of order. It shot toward me. Fast, like the final verdict of a judgment. I didn't dodge. Raising my hand, I summoned my energy. Si Chao golden cloudburst. Golden crow fire capable of burning souls, met nether water capable of dragging down light itself. Two forces coexisting. They cooperated. And when two impossible to harmonize things choose harmony, the universe has one reaction. It starts to fear. The heavenly emperor's attack hit me. No explosion. Instead, it was deconstructed. Like spam email, meeting a heavenly AI anti-spam system. I walked straight through it, looked him in the eye. See that? I said. Your laws are still just outdated code. For the first time, the heavenly emperor took a half step back, just half a step. But for him, it was like a crack appearing in his throne. I tilted. Now, I said, it's my turn to write the update. I charged. I stood in Lingxiao Hall, where light reminds you, you are beneath the law. He no longer tested me. He ended the game. With a wave of his hand, space cracked as if the universe was torn from fate's notebook. Heavenly Tao characters formed a supreme court delivering judgment. The throne trembled not from fear but because it was being activated. I heard the system sensation. Admin authority confirmed, preparing to reset intruder entity. He was going to reset me. Like a factory reset, except instead of losing files, you lose existence. I smirked. Finally getting serious? He didn't respond. He lowered his hand. The entire Lingxiao Hall transformed. The throne became an inverted sun devouring light. Space compressed, as if the universe was being squeezed into a marble. I felt the weight of law, every choice calculated before my birth. Interesting, but I dislike fate math. I stepped forward. The ground cracked. Not because I was stronger, but because I refused to stand inside his equation. Do you know what's the funniest thing? I asked. The emperor frowned. I continued, you created laws to control everything, but you forgot one thing. I pointed at myself. Variables don't follow solutions. At that moment, I activated my highest state. Divine demon coexistence. Not an explosion, but a dissolution. Energy and memories merged like a new operating system, overriding the old one entirely. The space around me began to not understand what was happening. That's right, I said. An upgraded version. No ads, no subscription fee, and especially no uninstall button. He struck. No warning, no effect. Just a single thought. Lingxiao Hall pressed down, not ordinary pressure. It felt like the universe was staring at me saying, you should just disappear. I was forced back half a step, enough to understand. This was direct admin intervention. The emperor spoke slowly. You have power, but you are still standing within my laws. I smiled. This time, it was a real smile. That's your problem, I replied. I raised my hand, feeling demonic and divine energy twisting together like a live bomb. You think laws are unchangeable. I stepped forward. Space trembled. But to me, I continued, laws are just things that haven't been rewritten yet. The emperor narrowed his eyes slightly. He got serious. A black gold surge of power erupted from the throne, as if the heavenly Tao was vomiting control. Not flame or lightning, but the absolute weight of order. It shot toward me, as fast as a final judgment. I did not dodge. Dodging would be like telling fate, sorry, can I switch timelines? I raised my hand instead. Crimson sky golden cloud burst. One side was golden crow flame capable of burning souls. The other was nether water capable of dragging light into depths. Two things that should never coexist. But they didn't just coexist, they cooperated. When two impossible to merge forces merge, the universe usually has one simple reaction. It starts to fear. The divine emperor's attack struck me. No explosion, no eruption. Instead, it was deconstructed, like spam email meeting a heavenly grade AI anti-spam system. I walked through it, looked him in the eye. Your laws are outdated. For the first time, the divine emperor took a half step back. For him, it was like a crack appearing in his throne. Now I said, it's my turn. I charged. I stood in Lingxiao Hall, where light reminded you, you are under the law. The divine emperor no longer tested me. He ended the rules of the game. With a wave of his hand, space cracked as if reality had been torn from fate's book. Heavenly Tao symbols formed a supreme court delivering judgment without any fair trial. And then his throne trembled. Not from fear, but because it was being activated. I heard the system's feeling. Admin authority confirmed, preparing to reset intruding entity. He was resetting. Like a factory reset, except instead of losing photos, you lose existence. I smirked. Finally getting serious, he lowered his hand. Instantly, the Lingxiao Hall transformed into a nightmare zone. The throne became an inverted sun that devoured light. Space compressed, as if the universe were being squeezed into a marble. I felt the weight of law and fate. I felt every choice I made had been calculated before birth. Interesting, but I don't like fate-based mathematics. I stepped forward again. The ground cracked as I refused his equation. Do you know what's the funniest thing? I asked. The divine emperor frowned. I continued. You created laws to control everything, but you forgot one thing. I pointed at myself. Variables don't obey solutions. In that instant, I activated my highest state, divine demon symbiosis. Not an explosion, but a total dissolution. Power and memories merged like a new operating system. The space around me began to fail to understand what was happening. A few heavenly Tao characters displayed error messages. Error. Entity. Not compliant with reality structure. I laughed aloud. Ah, system error. The divine emperor finally narrowed his eyes. He no longer looked like a god, but someone who discovered his computer was infected, and the virus was smiling. He lowered his hand. The entire Lingxiao Hall collapsed its laws. Space pressed down. Not suppression, but deletion of resistance. I felt my body being rewritten, line by line. Delete user. Xe, I growled. You think you can delete me? I took another step forward. That step no longer walked on the floor of Lingxiao Hall. It stepped outside reality. Space froze. For the first time, the divine emperor truly changed expression, because he realized something. I was no longer standing within his laws. I was standing where laws weren't written. I clenched my fist, voice low. Your throne is not the center of the universe. It's just an old note that hasn't been erased yet. And then I charged forward. I once thought toppling a divine empire would feel like American movies, standing on a rooftop with a cape, victory music playing, applause. Reality was me standing in Lingxiao Hall, defeated. A trembling elder stepped forward. From today, please ascend as the new heavenly emperor. I looked at the shattered throne and the silent system message. I exhaled. No. The hall became quiet. A small deity asked, "You refuse the throne?" I scratched my pig snout. Yeah. Sounds like unpaid overtime for eternity. They looked shocked and disappointed. I stepped up, looking over the hall. Power is just a cycle, I said. Honestly, it feels like a Netflix series dragged out too many seasons. No one laughed. I turned away from the throne. The system spoke without quests. Final mission connection complete. I smirked. So you finally quit too? No reply. Only a message. Choose your own path. I stood still. There were no explosions, no arrows, no kneeling gods. Only silence. A rare kind of silence. I looked toward the gate. Outside was a new, ungoverned world. Okay, I murmured. If I'm not the final boss, then I'll be a free player instead. I walked away. No throne, no crown, just a black pig leaving the system. I returned to the white pig tribe on a peaceful afternoon. Coming back here felt like returning to a tutorial map after finishing a massive, grueling boss fight. Everything was slow and slightly confused. The young pigs looked at me like a DLC character, not downloaded from the right server. My mother stood there, not crying, just looking. I walked up. No notifications, no aura, no war god descent. Just a black pig standing before the one who raised me, even when the world saw me as a mistake. I'm back, I said. My mother stepped forward. She didn't ask about my strength or the gods I killed. She simply touched my head gently, like it would become memory. Are you tired? She asked. I froze. I had stood against gods and watched the emperor fall, but none of that stopped me like this simple question. I smiled faintly. Maybe more tired than when I was thrown into the Back Mountain Gorge, I said. At least no one asked about my feelings there. Nearby pigs laughed softly. I turned around. My father stood farther away. No killing intent, no judgmental gaze. Just a father who looked slightly worn, like a sword once sharp but now kept as an old, quiet memory. He said nothing. I said nothing either. I exhaled. I thought I came back to end something, I said. Revenge, closure, or at least a final season of family drama. I looked at him directly. But there's nothing left to end. He flinched slightly. I shrugged casually. I used to think family was defined by strength, status, or divine bloodline. I smiled lightly. Now I see it more like Wi-Fi, I said. Everyone looked at me, confused. I explained, when you lose it, you realize how important it is. But when you get it back, as long as it doesn't lag, it's fine. A few sounds echoed. I ignored them. I didn't come here to be a philosopher. I came here to let go. I stepped back. Not like someone leaving in anger, but like someone who has already paid the bill. Father, I said, I neither forgive nor resent anymore. He was silent. I continued more softly. I'm just moving on. I turned to my mother. I won't come back anymore. She looked at me. No tears, just a nod. As if she understood that some paths, even called home, cannot hold the footsteps that have gone too far. I turned around. Ahead was the horizon. No more system-forcing quests. No more divine wars. No more heavenly Tao right or wrong. Only me. A black pig. No longer trash. No longer martial. Just freedom. I walked on, and before leaving the tribe, I dropped a pouch of jade slips onto the ground. Inside are some proper cultivation methods. I said without turning back. No need to become monsters just to survive anymore. Then I added, slightly smiling, tell them. I said no more grinding pain DLC. The wind blew past, and for the first time, I didn't hear the system. Only my own voice. I stood on the edge of a new planet, the system labeled E-White class, normal climate but abnormal drama. Bitch Lian was coiling beside me, looking at me like, you just destroyed the heavenly court and now you want a backpacking trip. Hang Na stood behind, her white robe unchanged, but her eyes no longer as cold as a December moon. And me, still me, a black pig once called waste, now deciding which direction to fly for, leisure. The system stayed silent for a long time. For the first time, it didn't spam quests like a failing American fundraising app. Then it spoke. Warning, user has surpassed all fate scripts. I chuckled softly. Yeah, I know, thanks. After destroying the throne of the divine emperor, I thought it would feel like beating a final boss. Fireworks, epic music, rolling credits. But no, it was just silence. A silence where you can almost hear yourself existing. Hang Na stepped closer and asked softly, after everything, do you still want anything? I looked down at my pig feet. Still ugly. Still not hero poster material. But strangely, I didn't mind anymore. What do I want? I shrugged. Maybe a journey without bosses, prophecies, or people telling me who I should be. Bitch Lian laughed. Sounds more like a travel ad than a war god declaration. I nodded. Yeah, and I'm the most demanding customer of my own life. The planetary wind passed through. No blood smell, no war smell. For the first time, it carried only freedom. The system spoke again, softer this time, almost resigned. Final mission. Live as you wish. Status. Perfect completion. I laughed. Finally, you learned how to say something without pressure. Then I turned to everyone. Let's go. Before the universe finds another way to keep me busy. Hang Na held my hand. Bitch Lian transformed into a small dragon, perching on my shoulder. And I, a pig once called System Error, walked across the stars. because in truth, trash or war god are just names given by others. And I had already chosen my new name, unmanaged. I stood on the highest mountain of this world, where the wind was so strong even ego would be blown away. But luckily, after everything I no longer had ego left. Below me stretched the new world. No more heavenly realm, no more demon realm. Just a mixed, chaotic but at least fairer system. Bitch Lian lay curled beside the rock, yawning like she had watched the universe. Hang Na stood farther away, her gaze much softer now, like someone who has lived long enough to know revenge isn't the answer and drama should have a final, quiet season. And me, still me, a black pig, not human, not dragon, no final form, just me. The system stayed silent for a long time. No more quest pings, like a resigned manager. Then it said, Summary, Fate script deleted. User has exited the system. I laughed. Sounds like uninstalling a troublesome app. Thanks, but you should have uninstalled the Divine Emperor earlier. No response. The wind blew again. It felt like the whole world was clearing its cache. Bitch Lian asked softly, so what now? King, God, or legend? I looked down at my pig feet, then up at the sky. No, I said. I've had enough titles. War God, Marshal, Trash Pig, Final Boss. Sounds like a burnout CV. Hanggas smiled softly. Sounds like you want retirement. I nodded. Yeah, but retirement without asking anyone's permission. I stepped forward, not to ascend, not to conquer, just to move on. Behind me, the old world no longer existed. Ahead of me, there was no map. It should have been terrifying, but instead, it felt light. I looked back at them one last time. Coming? I asked. Bitch Lian immediately flew onto my shoulder like a pet applying a patch. Hang Yan nodded quietly, saying nothing, and we walked. No destiny music, no prophecy. No chosen one. Only wind, footsteps, and a black pig once called Waste, now writing his own rules. Before leaving the mountain, the system spoke one last line. Final mission, live as you wish. Status, perfect completion. I smiled. Yeah. For the first time, I don't need anyone to confirm that. Then I stepped down. Not from power, but into freedom.